Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are breaking down the facts of what the Associated Press is reporting as a shocking act of political violence.
Okay, let's just jump right in. These are some incredibly stark words from Utah's Governor Spencer Cox, and he said this just hours after it all went down. You know, hearing this, it immediately tells you this wasn't some random act. No, this was a targeted killing. It really sets the stage for just how serious the events of September 10th, 2025 truly were. So, to really get the full picture here, you have to understand who Charlie Kirk was. I mean, the guy was only 31, but he was already a huge name in conservative politics. His organization, Turning Point USA, it made him super influential, especially when it came to getting young voters fired up. And of course, he was a very well-known, very vocal ally of President Trump.
All right, so let's get into what actually happened. We're going to walk through the core facts again, all according to the Associated Press. Okay, so this gives us the setting, and right away you can see this was no small private meeting. We're talking about a major public event on a university campus. And look at that attendance, about 3,000 people showed up. This was the first stop on a big new tour, so the whole point was to be out there engaging with students, with the public, face to face.
And this is where it gets chilling. The AP's reporting suggests this was a very calculated attack. Think about it. It happened during the Q&A session, probably the most open and interactive part of the whole event. And the shooter wasn't in the crowd. They were on a nearby rooftop and fired just one shot, a single fatal shot that hit Kirk directly. I mean, that detail alone just screams planned and deliberate.
Okay, now let's zoom in a bit closer on the scene itself to get a sense of Kirk's final moments.
So this timeline, which comes from the AP's reporting, it literally lays out the final conversation, the last words exchanged right before that shot was fired. And what's really tragic here is that he was in the middle of a debate about gun violence. That very discussion would end up being his last.
Of course, in this day and age, the immediate aftermath was captured on, countless phones. The Associated Press was able to confirm that these videos taken right there in the Sorensen Center courtyard were authentic. They show that absolutely horrific moment Kirk was hit, and then just the chaos that erupted when a crowd of 3,000 people suddenly realized what they'd just witnessed.
So as you can probably imagine, news of this assassination spread like wildfire, and the reactions started pouring in. And not just from one side, but from all across the political spectrum.
President Trump, who was a close ally of Kirk's, put out a video statement from the White House pretty much right after the news broke. He called Kirk a martyr for truth and freedom, and the AP reports he also directly blamed the rhetoric of the radical left for what happened, which, immediately put a political frame around the tragedy.
But the condemnation wasn't just coming from one side. It also came from way across the political aisle. You've got California Governor Gavin Newsom, a leading Democrat who'd actually had Kirk on his podcast just the year before. His statement was incredibly strong, and it really shows how the initial shock and horror of this just cut right through those political divides.
And then there's this reaction, which is, well, it's just particularly powerful. It's from former Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords. And of course, she herself was a survivor of a politically motivated shooting back in 2011. So her words, they just carry this incredible weight, It comes from someone who understands this specific kind of violence in a way most of us can't, adding a really personal and tragic note to the whole thing.
Okay, so this is a really important point. The Associated Press report doesn't treat this assassination as something that happened in a vacuum. They place it in a much wider context, as part of what looks like a deeply disturbing trend.
Yeah, so the AP connects the dots here between Kirk's killing and this whole string of other recent acts of political violence. And it's not limited to one ideology, it's touching all sides. We're talking about the assassination of a state lawmaker, a fire at a governor's house, a parade being firebombed, and let's not forget the attempt on then-candidate Donald Trump's life just the year before. It really paints a grim picture of a country that's grappling with escalating violence.
And that's where we'll wrap up this breakdown. The facts of what happened are stark. The reaction from all sides are incredibly powerful. And the context is frankly alarming. It really leaves us with this huge critical question. What does an event like this signal for the future? Where does political conversation in this country even go from here?